Dogs have an incredible sense of smell that they use to help them navigate their world. And some dogs are even able to detect certain medical conditions in humans simply by smelling their breath or touching them. This is because dogs have more than 300 million scent receptors in their noses compared to the 6 million in humans. Plus, they can sniff things up to 100 times per second. So it's no wonder that they're often used in search and rescue operations or to detect drugs and explosives. But what does this mean for our furry friends at home? Can your dog really smell cancer? Let's take a look at the science behind how dogs can detect cancer in humans, and what you can do to train your pup to do the same. Stay tuned. Can dogs smell cancer? The answer is yes, but not in the way that you might think. Dogs cannot actually smell cancer cells themselves, but they can pick up on certain volatile organic compounds or VOCs that are released by cancer cells. These VOCs are small molecules that evaporate into the air and can be detected by dogs' sensitive noses. One study published in the journal PLAs found that dogs were able to detect lung cancer with 89% accuracy just from breath samples alone. Another study published in the journal Cancer Research found that dogs were able to detect breast cancer with 97% accuracy from samples of urine, blood, and tissue. Dogs have been shown to be able to detect a variety of different cancers, including lung, breast, prostate, bladder, kidney, and colorectal cancer, as well as lymphoma and leukemia. They've even been able to detect cancer in some of the most difficult to diagnose cases. There are a few different ways that dogs can be trained to detect cancer. The most common method is to train them to detect the VOCs that are released by cancer cells. This can be done by exposing the dog to samples of breath, urine, blood, or tissue from people with and without cancer. The dog is then rewarded when they correctly identify the samples with cancer. Another method is to train the dog to detect the change in smell that occurs when cancer cells are present. For example, dogs can be trained to detect the change in smell of a person's breath when they have lung cancer. This can be done by exposing the dog to samples of breath from people who have lung cancer and those who don't. The dog is then rewarded when they correctly identify the samples with lung cancer. Once the dog has been trained, they can then be used to screen people for cancer. This can be done by having the dog sniff the person's breath, touch them, or look at them. If the dog detects any VOCs that are associated with cancer, they will alert their handler, who can then take the appropriate action. But why should you care about whether or not your dog can smell cancer? Well, early detection of cancer is key to successful treatment. If cancer is caught in its early stages, it is much more treatable than if it is allowed to progress, and dogs can often detect cancer before it is even visible on a scan or test. In one study, dogs were able to detect lung cancer in 94% of cases, even when there was no clinical evidence of cancer. This means that dogs could potentially save countless lives by helping to detect cancer early. Not only can dogs detect cancer in humans, but they can also help us fight it. There are a number of studies that have shown that dogs can detect cancer cells in the lab. This could potentially be used to develop new cancer treatments or to monitor the effectiveness of existing treatments. Dogs have even been used to detect cancer cells in patients who are undergoing chemotherapy. The results of these studies have been promising and suggest that dogs may play an important role in the future of cancer treatment. So how can you train your dog to detect cancer in humans? Well, first of all, you need a dog that is smart and eager to please. You also need a dog that has a great sense of smell. Some breeds that are known for their sense of smell include beagles, bloodhounds, labradors, and German shepherds. Once you have the right dog, you need to start training them right away. Begin with basic obedience commands, such as sit, stay, and come. Then move on to more complex commands, such as find and identify. You will also need to teach your dog how to alert you when they have found something interesting. This can be done with a verbal cue such as I found it, or with a hand signal. It is important to be patient and consistent when training your dog. They will not learn quickly, and you will need to repeat the process many times before they get it right. However, once your dog is trained, they will be able to help you detect cancer in humans. But what if you don't have a dog? Well, there are a few things that you can do to protect yourself against cancer. First, eat a healthy diet full of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Exercise regularly and maintain a healthy weight. Get regular screenings and follow your doctor's recommendation. By taking these steps, you can reduce your risk of developing cancer and potentially save your life. So can dogs really smell cancer? The answer is yes. They can smell certain volatile organic compounds or VOCs that are released by cancer cells. They can be trained to detect these VOCs through breath, urine, blood, or tissue samples. Early detection of cancer is key to successful treatment, and dogs can often detect cancer before it is visible on a scan or test. Dogs can be trained to detect cancer cells in the lab and in patients who are undergoing chemotherapy. To train your dog to detect cancer, you need a smart dog that is eager to please and has a great sense of smell. Start with basic obedience commands and then move on to more complex commands such as find and identify. Teach your dog how to alert you when they have found something interesting. Be patient and consistent when training your dog and reward them when they get it right. If you don't have a dog, eat a healthy diet, exercise regularly, maintain a healthy weight, get regular screenings, and follow your doctor's recommendations to reduce your risk of developing cancer. Now let's move on to the next video. What makes a good dog? Is it their looks, their size, or their personality? Actually, it's all of these things and more. A good dog is a combination of genetics, environment, and training. Genetics play a big role in a dog's personality and behavior. This is why it's important to choose a reputable breeder who tests their dogs for genetic conditions. The environment in which a dog is raised also plays a big role in their development. A dog who grows up in a loving and stable home will be better adjusted than a dog who is neglected or abused. Finally, training is essential to raising a good dog. By training your dog, you teach them how to behave in different situations and how to interact with other people and animals. The first thing that makes a good dog is their looks. Of course, looks aren't everything, but they do play a role in how we perceive our dogs. We want our dogs to be clean and well-groomed. No one wants a dirty dog that sheds all over the place. The next thing that makes a good dog is their size. We want a dog that is big enough to protect us, but not so big that they're overwhelming. A medium-sized dog is usually a good choice for most people. The third thing that makes a good dog is their personality. We want a dog that is friendly and outgoing, but not so much so that they're hyperactive. A dog with a calm and confident personality is usually a good choice for most people. But what about when you bring your dog to the vet? Are they still a good boy? If you're like most people, the answer is probably yes. But if your dog is anything like mine, then they become a completely different animal when they go to the vet. All of a sudden, they're growling and barking and trying to bite everyone who comes near them. It's like they have a split personality. So what gives? Well, it turns out that dogs don't like going to the vet for a few reasons. First, they know that it's not fun. They know that they're going to be poked and prodded and have their temperature taken. Second, they don't understand what's happening. Dogs don't know why they re at the vet or what the vet is going to do to them. This makes them feel scared and anxious. Finally, they're in a new environment. When you go to the vet, your dog is in a new environment. They're surrounded by other animals and people that they don't know. This can make them feel overwhelmed and stressed out. So what can you do to make the vet experience less stressful for your dog? Well, first of all, try to make the car ride to the vet as enjoyable as possible. Don't get angry at your dog for being scared or anxious, and give them plenty of love and attention. Once you arrive at the vet, try to stay calm and relaxed. Your dog can sense your anxiety, and it will only make them more scared. If your dog is really scared, ask the vet to give them a sedative before the exam. With a little patience and understanding, you can help your dog overcome their fear of the vet. Watch this next video to find out how to teach your dog to stop jumping on people.